How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Peggy Sue Got Married from 1986. This is directed by Francis Ford Coppola and stars Kathleen Turner and Nicolas Cage. And also, fun fact, this would have Jim Carrey in a Before They Were Famous kind of minor role as one of Nicolas Cage's friends, and he's really great. You can really see the star he's about to become as this movie comes out, and he's just, like a minor friend character, but you're like, oh, that's Jim Carrey, and he does some pretty fun stuff in this movie. But yeah, fun early appearance. But anyway, for those of you guys who are familiar with my channel, you know that when I cover movies on here, I do like 95% horror movies, so Peggy Sue Got Married may be kind of a random pull, but that being said, I have this kind of goal. I want to collect every Nicolas Cage movie and then eventually review them, so I got a bit of a ways to go on that goal. Nicolas Cage has over 100 movies, and if I reviewed one a week, it would still take me about 2 years, so I'll do some more Nicolas Cage movies every now and then. But anyway, let's just jump into this. I'm going to talk a bit about the plot, but I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few of the plot points, and I want to make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what this movie's about. We open up in the future, or at least the future of, not the future, the present of 1986, and you see Peggy Sue, played by Kathleen Turner, and she's there with her daughter, and you find out that she's in the process of getting a divorce. She was married to Nicolas Cage, and the daughter turns on the TV and sees him in a commercial. You see Nicolas Cage is a small business owner, and he's doing a local commercial. He has this bit where he smashes a fortune cookie, reads the paper inside, and whatever sales on that paper is what he has to do, and he's doing that classic crazy salesman bit like, we can't really give people this good a deal, this is gonna bankrupt us, and it's a fun, wacky character, Nicolas Cage playing a wacky character, right? But seeing this commercial upsets Peggy Sue, and she asks her daughter to turn it off. Her and her daughter are going to her 25-year high school reunion, and the daughter convinces her to dress up kind of like it was an old-timey prom. She goes there, and she gets to get reconnected with her friends and find out where all these people from high school, what their life is like when they're, all adults and stuff, and, kind of seeing where everyone is. And of course, they're all asking about Nicolas Cage because they see him on TV still, which is obviously a sore subject because they're getting a divorce. A lot of awkward things there. They sit down at the tables and they do kind of like a prom king and queen, and they pick Peggy Sue. Peggy Sue gets up on stage, but as they're wheeling the cake towards her, she begins to feel dizzy and lightheaded, and she ultimately passes out. She falls down. But when she wakes up, she finds that she is 25 years in the past in her senior year. She wakes up on a table from doing a blood drive, and they're like, oh yeah, you fainted because we took the blood, you'll be okay, just get some water and stuff. And she's like, wait a minute, this is 25 years in the past, and at first she thinks she's dead, and she's reacting to everything very, very reactionary. And one of the first big crazy things is Nicolas Cage coming up to her. Now, where she was just at in the future, Nicolas Cage and her are not happy with each other. They're in the process of getting a divorce. But 25 years ago, they were dating, they were happy, and Nicolas Cage is just running up to her and giving her affection. And, she's like, whoa, I don't like you. And that, of course, is going to be a cause of major confusion because she's acting impulsively, sees Nicolas Cage again, and she's like, whoa, 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 no, that's a bad idea. But from his perspective, he's done nothing wrong and really doesn't understand what's happening. So this is gonna, throw him off. But Nicolas Cage in this movie, he's, kind of young and he's doing a bit of a voice. It's not quite his Vampire's Kiss voice, but it is this voice he's doing for a young, kind of young idiot type character. And he's doing this voice, but he's also, when she wakes up, he's at a blood drive and he's doing this sort of vampire bit, which is kind of funny because a bit later he would do Vampire's Kiss, and to see Nicolas Cage doing a vampire joke here, it's kind of funny and a bit of a hint at a future movie. But anyway, she gets up and she's acting really reactionary, and she's seeing all this nostalgia stuff. Her friends when they're young, her old school. She goes home and she's like, oh, it's my old home. And you do get some stuff that are very, very touching. For example, she sees her sister at the house, and she's like, oh, my sister, because in the future they're apparently kind of estranged. And she's like, oh, I haven't seen you in forever, I love you. And the sister's like, wow, you're just being weird, what's up with that? And you can tell, just how much she regrets the future with that. But then there's another super touching moment where she answers the phone, and it's her grandparents just giving her a casual phone call, but of course in the future they're dead, and they're just like, oh hey, what's up? And she starts breaking out into tears just over a call from her grandparents, and she has to lie and say, oh, I had a dream where they died, but in reality she's from the future and they did die. And it's a very, very sad moment of something that was just innocuous, just a casual phone call, and it's sparking all that emotion. It's a really good moment. But there also is a bit of humor. She befriends a nerd type character because he's the only one that would believe or even listen to something about time travel. And she starts explaining the future, and there's all these jokes like, oh, technology's getting smaller, except for stereos. They have these big boom boxes in the future. And there's another really good joke. She's going to her algebra class, and her friends are like, oh, did you study for the test? And it's just like one of those nightmares where you're back in high school, and she's like, test? What test? And of course she doesn't remember any of it because she's from 25 years in the future. So she kind of draws a picture on her test, and her algebra teacher sees it and is like, what's up with that? Are you not taking this seriously? And she kind of gets angry, and she's like, no, I'm not taking it seriously, because I can tell you from experience that nobody uses any of this in their real life. She's like, I'm from 25 years in the future, this is all literally pointless. And I do got to really love that joke, because school teaches you so much useless information, meanwhile completely ignoring things that kids should really know and should really be taught before they go out into the world on their own. But no, we're going to teach them pointless algebra that means nothing later on in life, and that was a really good joke there. But yeah, it was really cool to look back, and see all this older stuff, which is of course even older from my point in the future. I saw this with my parents, and my parents were, looking at the movie and go, oh yeah, you remember those things, oh yeah, they used to do that. And of course, seeing a lot of these actors, they're like, oh, that actor was from this or that. And part of me kind of would like to have a remake of this, just, to get nostalgic about, things I remember from when I was younger. But at the same time, I know that there definitely should not be a remake of this, because it is definitely one of those things that would get messed up if they try to do it again. And one of the big things that they would not do right in a remake would be the characters. This movie is A-okay with having flawed characters, and that is really something I really miss. I don't know if it's due to the internet or what, but it seems like nowadays, if any character has any character flaw, you get a bunch of people going, oh, that character is really wrong. Maybe that character, if you look at it this way, was really the villain of the whole piece. But the thing is, in real life, nobody's perfect and nobody's completely evil. Heroes have flaws and villains have reasons. And I really miss fiction where they were allowed to say, here's your hero characters, but they have flaws, and that is really, really something I miss from these movies, and I can really appreciate, and that is primarily in Nicolas Cage's character. You see Nicolas Cage being a young, dumb idiot in the past, but in the future, he's going to eventually cheat on his wife, and this relationship is ultimately going to end badly. And you do see they'll shine a light on his positive elements, but as they're shining a light on him, you do see the bad things that are going to end in the bad future. They're like, hey, look, he's a young kid with his dreams and aspirations, but he definitely has faults. In particular, you can see he wants to be a singer in a band, and this does not come true in the future, and he eventually inherits his father's store and is working there, which isn't where he wants to be. And Peggy Sue, from the future, is always like, oh, it's that stupid thing he wanted to do, and it caused us so much pain and fighting, and he never did it. It would not pan out. But she goes back to the past and sees that he was actually really good at it, and actually was super happy singing, and to see this dream and to see the beginnings of it start to fail, plus knowing that it will fail, is super, super tragic. And he also has ways of oversimplifying things like, hey, I know we have this problem, but if we just do this and this, it'll just be okay. And you're like, no, it's not going to be okay. You're ignoring major things, and can't you see that this isn't what Peggy Sue wants? But of course he doesn't, because he's young and dumb and he doesn't understand everything yet. And you do get bits where, everything's throwing him for a loop. He gets frustrated and he does get very, very angry. And, he doesn't understand why Peggy Sue all of a sudden doesn't like him. And he gets very, very angry. And this is probably, if they did do a remake, something that they would cut out. But, he does feel these emotions and he doesn't know what to do with them. And it, of course, leads to some good Nicolas Cage freakouts. Not super crazy stuff, but, to see this character just pushed that far in his emotion to the point where he doesn't know what to do and he's choosing improper ways to express this, you do get to see the flaws in these characters. And I don't like when characters are too perfect in movies, and to see why this guy would become who he is in the future was really interesting, and there is a lot about him, but it is primarily Peggy Sue's movie, and you do follow her around, and it is why her and Nicolas Cage didn't work out, and she also starts to, explore other options. What do I think about this guy or that guy, and finds out, oh, maybe there aren't really too many good options, and it really does have this feeling of, yeah, life kind of sucks and things kind of crumble and don't pan out, which is, totally not something that they'd pull in today's kind of Hallmark movies where, she's exploring, but she can't really find the perfect ending she wants, and she quite quickly realizes that, several of these paths, oh, it'll be perfect if no, that's not going to work out either. And it is really, really interesting in that way. And there is, as far as, not really a flaw, but, something that people, a modern audience will look at and talk about, is, she is acting very reactionary, and in turn, the whole time travel element, you have to look at like, oh, maybe she shouldn't do this or that. In particular, her first instinct when she sees Nicolas Cage is to push him away, and it's not till the very end of the movie that she's like, oh yeah, my daughter, I do really love my daughter there. And you're like, yeah, you should have thought about that a lot earlier. So that is kind of one of those things that she doesn't really think about time, as far as like, hey, if you push Nicolas Cage away, what about your kid? And that is kind of one of the flaws, is that she doesn't think about that super quickly. But that's really about it. This is a really fun, nostalgic, look back in time movie and thinking about how things could be differently. And it is, really a cool and thoughtful movie with flawed characters and kind of like, hey, life can get really sad and twisted and messed up, but you know, we're all here working through it and it happens to everybody. Just gotta, you know, keep going. And you know, at the end of the day, it is a really good movie that doesn't try to polish everything out and make everything perfect, and I feel it means a lot more because of that. You know, it's more honest to the rough edges. But anyway, I did like this movie. It's not the type of movie that I usually go see. You know me, I'm usually a horror geek. But I put this in. I found this Nicolas Cage 3-film pack for just $1. So, you know, not the type of film I normally watch, but ultimately I did appreciate. So, I'm really glad to pick this up. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You're really helping the channel out. And I'll put a relevant playlist on the bottom there. Should be movies that are in some way related to this. So if you want to see more, there'll be more right there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom.